Night.
Whose wedding?
Elyevich. Elyevich made a wedding last night. I thought Tyler was going to go pick at the wedding. Pick it, because he's the one who bought the terrace gardens.
Oh,
He's Bechitten is Leslie Dan. Is a doctor, whatever. What's his name? I forgot his name. I forgot his what's his name? Dan is the Zaide. Yeah, but what's the Heitman? Yeah. Okay, so let's see the Hilga Gemara. Machzer lois avidosi. So we're going to go back a little bit. Pligi ba Rav Ami v'Rabasi. Rav Ami and Rabasi had a difference of opinion as to how to understand the Mishnah. Chad Omar loy shanu.
What was the case? Who was?
We're going to see in just a minute. Loy shanu. This that you're allowed to be machzer in Aveda is elabisha nichse machzer asurin al bal Aveda. The person who found the Aveda said that you owner may not have a north from me. So if you may not have a north from me, how can I return your Aveda? Am I not being mated with you? You're giving him something that already belongs to him. That's not considered having a no, and therefore, even though the owner of the chayfetz may not have a no from the person that found the chayfetz, by accepting his Aveda from a finder, that's not considered him having a no from the finder. But what about on the flip side? What if the person who found Aveda is not allowed to have a hana from the person that he's returning to Aveda to? There, loy kama hader loy. They wouldn't be able to return it, because when you're returning an Aveda, that's when you're having benefit. How are you benefiting when you're returning to Aveda? You're providing the service. You're not receiving the service. Because since you're going to be also the mitzvah of a Shabbos Aveda, because of that, you're going to be potter from a mitzvah of giving tzedakah. And there's a lot of Torah on it that we don't have time to go through in fully, but I'll just throw out a couple of interesting issues. One issue is by the mitzvah of tzedakah, there is not only a mitzvah say of giving tzedakah, but there's also a mitzvah loisaseh, loisamitzvah yotcha. So if that's the case, you don't say oishik mitzvah, patim in a mitzvah when there's a loisaseh involved. You only say oishik mitzvah, you're patim, I'm doing another mitzvah. So that's one shiloh that they have. And there's a couple of different answers offered. One answer is, when do you say that when there's a loisaseh involved, you don't say oishik mitzvah, patim in a mitzvah? That's if in order to violate the loisaseh, you have to do an action that violates the loisaseh. But here it's the inaction by tzedakah. How are you violating loisamitzvah? Not by doing an action, by withholding an action, by not giving tzedakah. There you don't. There you do say doicha loisaseh.
doesn't the mitzvah of a Shabbos? Doesn't the mitzvah of a Shabbos Aveda trump the individual shvua or neder that he made? How can you make a shvua that you'll be Iker Deraisa?
Oh, very good kasha. So the Gemara says, how could I say koinim yeshiva sukkah alai? I'm being Iker Deraisa. So the Gemara says, if I'm directly opposing the mitzvah, that's when you can't do it. But I'm just answering yeshiva sukkah. So now, as a byproduct of that, I'm prevented from being mekayim the mitzvah. There it will be chal. So here I'm saying I may not have a no from this person. So I'm not directly addressing head on the mitzvah of Shabbos Aveda. I'm in general answering myself to have enough from this person. So now that I'm also to have enough from this person, I won't be able to return his Aveda because it's going to trigger that I'm going to have a benefit from him.
Good question.
Well, the Gemara's kasha, right? The Gemara struggled with that. This is a question the Gemara struggled with. Okay, so let's go back to our original question. How could you say doicha? How could you say Isaac with mitzvah, patim in a mitzvah? There's a loisaseh involved. So the first teretz was the loisaseh of l'samitzvah yotcha is a loisaseh that's a shav test, not a kum baseh. So there you'll say ha'oishik with mitzvah, patim in a mitzvah. There's another pshat in what the Isser is. The Isser of l'samitzvah yotcha is only if it's habitual, doesn't mean once. It means if you're a person who never ever gives tzedakah, that's where there's your ability to. But just because in one instance you didn't, that wouldn't pose an issue. And they boy from there a very interesting shaila. The Shus Yaakov and I forgot who asked this kasha, but they ask a kasha that is a goy mechuyev in giving tzedakah? Is a goy mechuyev to give tzedakah? So the question is, if a goy is not mechuyev in giving tzedakah, so then what was the big avla of Sodom? They don't give tzedakah. So they brought a raya. Someone brings a raya from our Gemara that a goy is not mechuyev to give tzedakah, because they ask Akasha, if a goy was mechuyev, if a goy was mechuyev to give tzedakah, so then there'd be a svara to say that then there'd be a svara to say that you don't say ha'oisik b'mitzvah patim in a mitzvah by a mitzvah chamura. They bring rayas from different psukim, like they bring a raya from the fact that it says Ozoiv Tazoiv Imoy. There's a puzzle that says Lasucha Lasalem. If you see your friend lost something, you can't ignore it, you have to help him. Yet there's a specific puzzle that addresses someone whose animal is being crushed under its load. The puzzle says also that Azoiv Tazoiv Imoy, right? So the Meforshim ask, why do I need that? I already know any Aveda that my friend has, I have to help him out. Why do I need a special puzzle to tell me that if his animal is being crushed under its load, you have to help? You have to help anyway. The Teretz, the Meforshim say, is that even if you're asuk b'mitzvah at the time, normally asuk b'mitzvah patim in a mitzvah. In this case, there's an animal that's having tsar. There, even if you're asuk b'mitzvah, you have to stop the mitzvah that you're doing, and you have to do the asuk tasavimah. So based on that comment from the Yosy Yaakov, I forgot who it was, asks Akasha. So Oibazo, you should have a right from our Gemara that a goy is not mechuyev in tzedakah, because if a goy would be mechuyev in tzedakah, so I'll tell you why in the Seder Chavos is that. Because it's a humanitarian thing. I hear, but the problem is if a guy is not mechuyev mitzvah tzedakah, so why did Hashem punish Sodom? There are very well they didn't do tzedakah.
No,
if it's not Hashem mitzvah tzedakah,
The verb was that they stole. Didn't they steal?
That was not their Avera.
The answer is they did not steal. That wasn't their affair.
That the Avera wasn't.
Equality. David explained to us what Sodom did wrong.
Okay, so they were actively, first of all, the Bnei Ha'ir that surrounded, they want, according to Chazal, they wanted to be Raveya, the Malachim, right? It's not that they didn't, do it stuck, because they were actively involved in doing evil. Roim v'chatoim, it says.
So what the Meforshim say is it was institutionalized. Doing chesed was institutionalized to be wrong. They didn't want to stop to reveil them. They wanted to reveil them because they came that they wanted chesed. Would they have wanted to be reveil them even though they weren't freeloading? I thought it's because they were freeloading.
Even the Goyim understood. They don't call it sodomites for nothing, right? If somebody sodomizes, there's
they understand that. Yeah, but
even the Goyim understood that.
Shali, the shalach, zumi, the Sodom. That means Sodom, they weren't necessarily promoting stealing from people. They were promoting fair share, what's mine is mine, what's yours is yours. You don't ask me for anything.
A businessman came, they moved all stuff. They took
What? They used small items a lot. They abused a lot.
They used to come there.
But I'll them. That's what they answer. The answer is that, in fact, Anshe Sodom institutionalized, not helping anybody. That was their big problem. So now let's see the Gemara. Let's see the Gemara fighter. So Mahanila proved to Rabbi Yosef. The Chad Amar, and the other one holds. Afilo nichse balaveda asurin al machzer mahader. Even if the finder may not have a no from the owner of the object, I can still give it back. I am benefiting. I'm saving the pruta Rabbi Yosef. We're not concerned about that. Tosfos asks over here, if that's the whole problem of pruta Rabbi Yosef, so give the guy tzedakah. You're putter from giving him tzedakah if you're busy. So give him tzedakah, and the problem solved. what's the Gleiche Gedilla? So Toshva says the problem is it's possible that you'll be busy with the Aveda, and there'll be people that would have come to you that now we're not going to come to you, and you don't know. There's no way for you to figure out how to determine how much you have to give. Therefore, best don't give back the Aveda. But that I'm surprised that Chaim Fear didn't ask that kasha. So big deal. You're in the middle of your return on Aveda, right? So imagine your neighbor goes to Miami for 4 weeks, and you see something of his on his front lawn that's going to blow away in the wind. And you take it into your house. So does that mean for the next 4 weeks you don't have to give tzedakah because you have your neighbor's thing in your house? Or I have a better idea. I have a mezuzah in my house. So every moment of every day I'm being mekayim a mitzvah. So I don't have to give tzedakah. So there are those who say that if it's a mitzvah tamidius, like mezuzah, avada, there you don't say ha'ishik mitzvah part of a mitzvah. But maybe when I'm involved in protecting my friends aveda, I'm a shoy my aveda, I'm potter. Oh, I'm happy you brought that up. So Dobi says ha'ishik b'mitzvah part of a mitzvah is only if I'm not able to do it. I'm not able to do it. I can't juggle it. But the vision is a machloikis rishonim. So our rishonim will learn that ha'ishik b'mitzvah part of a mitzvah, even if you could do both things. Because when you're watching someone's Aveda, you're not 24/7, 365 every moment watching it. But there are shittas who hold that it's only if I'm actively involved. But that was a shayla we had by Moshe Rabbeinu with the bris. When you're traveling, you don't have 1 second to do a bris. You're busy with something. Yes, so even if you're involved in the mitzvah, you don't have to
that's
break your focus.
Right here. I'm not
Yeah. So there's a halacha. There's a halacha. If I come into a shul and I see a pair of talis and tefillin lying around, and I need talis and tefillin, am I allowed to use that talis and tefillin? The halacha you're allowed to. Or I'll tell you even a more scarier case. You come into the Bishmedish on Sukkot and you see Abraminim lying around. Provided that you're very careful, you're allowed to use someone's Abraminim without permission. Why? Because there's a klal, a person is freedom that a mitzvah should be done with his possessions. There are those who learn that that's working with the concept of ha'isuk b'mitzvah patim in a mitzvah. Since while you're wearing my talis and tefillin, since while you're shaking my lulav and esrog, I'm patim in a mitzvah. So if at that time there was a mitzvah that came to my hand and I didn't do it, now I have a saneger, I have a limit schus to myself. I was pater at that time. So there are those who learn that's the reason why nichel inish la'avid mitzvah. That's a real.
First day is coming.
Yeah, that's looking, but other than the first day. Okay, so that's the Gemara. So let's see the Gemara. So we have
probably even the first day because it's Nichalai. Nichalai means he would have.
Okay, so what we have over here is we have a Reb Amin Rabasi, and the machloikus is if the owner of the if the finder of the chayfetz is prohibited from having a no from the owner of the chayfetz, is returning the chayfetz an act of taking a no. If you hold the pruta de Rabbi Yosef, then it is an act of taking a no. And if you're not worried for pruta de Rabbi Yosef, then it's not an act of taking a no. So in fact, although everybody agrees, if the owner is not allowed to have a no from me, I'm surely allowed to give it back, because me giving it back to him, he's not benefiting. The machlokes is if I'm benefiting. And could be if I may not have a no from him, I may not give back the chayvitz because I'm benefiting. So let's see the Gemara. Tanan we learned. Now this Gemara is learned from two perspectives. One is 180 degrees, the opposite from what the other is. And even though Rabbi Rosner and Rabbi Elephant both learned it with the Perish of the Rosh, and I suspect the reason why you learned it with the Perish of the Rosh is because that is the Gershon our Gemara, and you can see that the Divrei of the Ram is very long because he changes the Gemara. And it's also a little bit simpler, the Perish of the Rosh. Nevertheless, we're working with the Ram, so I don't want to sleep around. You know what I'm saying? We're working with the Ram, so we'll stick with the Ram. So let's see what the Ram says. Now we learned. The end of the Mishnah says that if it happens to be a place where the norm is that the owner of the Aveda pays the finder, and why does he pay the finder? Because the finder had to divert his attention from his other job that he could have made money from, therefore he's entitled to some bit of a reward. So the law is people are not hektish. So the way we learned shot in this line in the Mishnah really is the maskana of the Gemara. So in order that we shouldn't get mixed up, I'm going to remind you how we learned shot in the Gemara, in the Mishnah, and then we'll do a reset. So in the Mishnah we said, I don't understand. The owner is not allowed to have hana from me, right? I'm giving him the Aveda. If he wants to pay me, let him pay me. I'm allowed to have hana from him. What's the problem? So the round in the Mishnah said, it's speaking where the fellow said, I don't want you to pay me. I'm happy that I found it. I'm going to give it back to you. I don't want you to pay me. So the question is, if the owner holds on to the money, now he's having a no from the finder. So because of that, the owner has to give the money to Hector, right? That's how we learned. So that's in fact going to be in the Maskana, but the Gemara is going to work around the Shaila. So for the Gemara, Bishlama Laman da Omar b'shenichse machzir asrun al bal aveda. Bishlam, according to the Mandam, who holds that if the bal aveda may not have enough from be the finder, then this line would make sense, as we discussed it. Aval the balaveda asurun al machzir. But if the balaveda was not allowed to give hana to the machzir, loy mahader, he wouldn't give it back at all. Why wouldn't he give it back at all? Because he's benefiting from the pruta of Rabbi Yosef. Now it makes perfect sense. This comment, Hanu de Katani mokim shenoit tumuloschar tipal anola hektish, because it's exactly how we discussed. I'm not allowed to have a no from the person who gave me back the chayfetz. I want to pay him for finding it. He refuses to take the money. So now what am I supposed to do with this money? I'm forced to give it to Hektish. There it makes perfect sense. Ela lemanda Omar, afilu nichse bal aveda asurun al machzir nami mahader amai tipul anola Hektish. But according to the shot that holds that either way, there's no problem. In other words, whether I may not have enough from the finder, there's no problem. And whether the finder may not have enough from me, there's no problem. So that means the second half of the Mishnah, which says, it's assumed that that's going back on both cases. Side the case where the finder may not have enough, and side on the case where the receiver may not have enough. Now, when the receiver may not have enough, that we explained. We explained it's speaking where he wants to pay. The finder doesn't want to take it, so therefore tibul no hektish. But if we're saying that this applies, even if the finder is not allowed to have a no from the machzir, so the problem is if the finder is allowed to have a no from the machzir. So what was the case? What exactly is the case? Why can't I refuse to take the money? If the finder is not allowed to have a no from the owner, so why can't the owner keep the money? The owner doesn't have the issue no. So if the finder refuses to accept the money, the owner can keep it. Why should the owner have a problem with keeping it? The Ran says even more. The finder should be able to take the money because it doesn't violate anything. Because I'm offering a service in lieu of that payment. So that's not called having a no. So that's how the Ran learns the kasha. Kachi ikara girsa. The Ran has the girsa exactly the opposite of our Gemara. And this is how the Ran says we should understand the Gemara. Bishlam, if you learn that the only time you're allowed to return the Veda is if the owner may not have enough from the finder. The if the finder may not have enough from the owner, the finder would not be allowed to return that Veda. We should prove to Rabbi Yosef because he's benefiting. So if you learn that way, that means the Reish of the Mishnah is only speaking in a case where are you allowed to return the Aveda? Only if the owner may not have enough from you. But in a case where you may not have enough from the owner, you wouldn't be given it back. You're not allowed to give it back. So so that means the Seifa is referring to only one case. This Seifa is referring to a case where the owner was not allowed to have enough from the finder. The finder gives it back. That's not called having a no, like we learned earlier, because he's giving back to the owner what was his anyway. And the question is, the owner wants to pay the finder refuses it. It's that payment that's going to cause a problem. If it's a place where it's the norm for the owner to give the finder a reward, what if the finder is a shiny Eid? He doesn't want to accept gifts. He's happy to do the mitzvah. The inner right to the kabel story. He doesn't want to accept money for the fact that he was kind enough to return the chayvitz. So now we have a problem. The Baal Aveda is not allowed to have an from the finder, but if he keeps that money, he's as if he received that money from the finder. That's already going to be a problem. Lo yeshenu Baal Aveda lo yishachar etloi. The Baal Aveda should not hold that money by him. The hamis hadimine, because now he's benefiting whatever that schar was, the $10 that he should have given, he is now benefiting from. And lativ boil hano lehektish. The hano goes to hektish. You should give that money to hektish. Ella lemanda omar. If you learn that our Mishnah is speaking in both cases, it doesn't matter if the owner was also to have a no from the finder, or even if the finder is not allowed to have a no from the owner. Either way, he could give it back. Well, if that's the case, in Cain, Reisha de Katani, in the ratio where the Mishnah says that one is allowed to return the Aveda, it's in any case, the ratio of the Mishnah that says return the Aveda is speaking even if the finder is not allowed to have no from the owner. And on that case, the Seifa, the Katani Tipul Anola Hektish, Hakula Milsakai. The assumption should be that the Seifa of the Mishnah that says Tipul Anola Hektish is referring back to both of the cases that the ratio was talking about. Say if the finder may not have a no, say if the receiver may not have a no. So tomorrow, Bishlama B'nichsei Machzor Asurin. Bishlama, if it's the owner of the Chavitz who cannot have a no, Asi Shapir, Imachzer Gabriel Kana, who could appreciate. We explained what these circumstances are. The owner was not allowed to have a no. He wants to pay the finder. The finder refused to take the money, and now if the owner holds on to that money, he's having illegal hano. So therefore, he has to give it to hektish. But when the whole problem is that the finder is not allowed to have enough in a machzer, the people are no hektish. Why should the owner give a no hektish? Let him keep it. The owner doesn't have any isser. The finder is not allowed to have enough of me, so I won't pay him. Hold on to the money. So how would you explain the comment of the Mishnah referring to this scenario? It wouldn't make sense. The lekala meimar, and you can't say it's speaking the hacha kishabala veda gavri yakarno. You can't say it's the opposite case. The owner doesn't want to accept the money. I feel like a schnorrer. Since I'm supposed to pay you for finding my aveda, I don't want to keep it. I don't want to feel like a schnorrer. But right to lead in schar, and he's trying to pay. But the finder can't accept it because he has this or no. That's not mistaber to say. You know why? Because people don't behave that way. It's understandable that I'll refuse a reward because I don't need your money. I'm happy to do the mitzvah. But if someone refuses to take the reward for me to hold on to it, that doesn't have that whole concept. You feel cheap if you're taking money that you did a mitzvah for. But not giving money for someone returning a Veda, that's not something that would make you feel so uncomfortable that the Mishnah would have to address it as people on Allah hektish. But the Ran puts this chiddush on steroids. The Ran says, never mind. Even if the finder is not allowed to have a noha from the owner, he's allowed to accept payment. If he's accepting payment, he's having a noha. Zokter on the chiddush, that's not even called having a noha. V'li nira the hachikamar. Amai people are not lehektish yitin soroi balaveda lamachsir. Even though the finder is not allowed to have a noah from the balaveda, he's still allowed to accept payment for return daveda. Why? Even though the machsir may not have a noah from the owner, the finder is still allowed to be paid. You know why? Because we just discussed 2 days ago that just because I'm paying you, it doesn't mean that I'm having a noah from you. The Hashas Zavina de Ramel Apei Amar, we discussed it when a merchant has merchandise that's dead merchandise, right? We said Leil, Danos Moichahu, Veloy Lakeach. So if you go, let's say a Moicher, let's say a Lakeach said, I'm not allowed to have enough from Moicher. I said, this store, it's also for me to have enough from this store. And this store has dead merchandise. I'm allowed to buy product there. You know why? Because I'm not having enough from them. They're having enough from me because it's dead merchandise. So we learned Anos Moicher v'lo Lakeach. We're not Kamino. It was Nagaya earlier in the Gemara. The Lakeach mudar mi Moicher. If the Lakeach was not allowed to have a noah from the vendor, mutar likach mimenu zvina de Ramel Apei. He's allowed to buy dead merchandise because I'm not benefiting from you. You're benefiting from me because you're unloading dead merchandise. My time, Why is it that I'm not considered to having benefited from you when I buy dead merchandise? So mikol mokim muder misani me'ahumidid moicher. How could you say that I'm not having a no? I purchased a product. I got a product. Is that not having a no? If I attained the product that I was looking for? Elavadai hainu taima. You know why it's not called that the buyer had a no? The kibun desvini de rame alapay. Since this is dead merchandise, hamashkach mino lekeach tuba. The lekeach can go anywhere and find this product. Anybody will sell it to him. So you're not being mated with me by selling it to me because I can get it anywhere. Just like we say, if I buy from you dead merchandise, even though I got something from you, it's not called that I had enough from you. So the same thing, if I return your Aveda and you pay me, I'm not having enough from you. I lost money because I couldn't do my other work while I was being engaged in returning your Aveda. Even though you're paying me, I'm not called having benefit from you because I could have made more money elsewhere. I didn't need those timechlish kantoivus. I would be much happier staying at my job, earning more money than you paid me. So even if you're paying me, it's not me having a no from you. So I say, it would have been easier for me to ignore your Aveda. So therefore, the kasha is, why do you have to give the hanat hekish? Pay the finder. And there's no problem that the finder is having enough from you, because even if you're paying him, he's not having enough from you. He's better off without you. The chibun shekain, the kasha is, my people are no hekish. Let the owner pay the reward to the finder, and there's no problem whatsoever of his. So now our problem is, in a case where the finder was not allowed to have hana from the owner, how do you explain the end comment of the Mishnah that says, and for the Gemara, that's very easy. Zok the Gemara, Elamanda Omar. Elamanda Omar, I have to go into the round because we have a different gear. Elamanda Omar, why should it go to Hekesh? And for the Gemara, Achada Katani. You're right. It will not go. The case of people no Hekesh would not apply to a case where the finder was not allowed to have a no from the owner, because there, in fact, he could take it back. He could take the payment, no problem, like the Ran said. This part of the Mishnah is only going on the case where the owner was not allowed to have a no from the finder. Simple.
From the Ram came to, so the only reason why he could take it because he was losing money actually by giving back.
No, it's because I'm not benefiting. I'm not benefiting from
why?
it.
Why I'm not benefiting?
But the main point is I'm not benefiting. Why don't I renew it? Because I could have done better elsewhere.
Yeah,
that's right.
So, even if you're underpaying me, that means I'm losing money. And that's why it's not called right?
It's not called a because even if you paid me the same amount that I would earn elsewhere, I didn't need you. I could have earned elsewhere. I didn't need you to give me that money. I didn't need your job. I got that job. Right? There are those who have the same sugi that we just discussed, but presented in a different way. So we're literally doing a rerun of what we just learned. One said, one says, when do we say this halacha that you're allowed to return the Aveda? That's only if the owner, if the finder was not allowed to have a no from the owner. And why could you give it back? We should prove to the Rabbi Yosef lo shchiach, because even though the finder is having a benefit because of proof to the Rabbi Yosef, that's not shchiach. We're not worried about that. So even if the finder is not allowed to have a no from the owner, he's still allowed to give it back. But if the owner was not allowed to have enough from the finder, they're loy mahadulay. So this is the opposite of what we said. Now we're saying if the owner was not allowed to have enough from the finder, you're not allowed to give it back. Why? You're giving him enough. So in the first nusach we said you're just giving him back his own thing. In this nusach we're saying no. The fact that you're giving him back something that he would have otherwise lost, you are giving him enough, and therefore that is prohibited. The Chad Omar and the other Omar says that it works both ways. Afilu nixi machzer asurin al balaveda. It will still be mutter because the chi mahadelei midid in afshei ka mahadelei. He's returning his own thing. So instead of the machlokes being whether or not the law of our Mishnah applies in a case where the finder couldn't have enough, everybody agrees when the finder couldn't have enough, he's allowed to return it. The whole shaila is if the owner couldn't have enough. That's where there's a machlokes if you'd be allowed to return it. And we have the same cut. Tana makam shenoitnu lo schar tibla no leaktish. Bishlam leman domer afilu b'shenichsi machzer asurina balaveda mahader hani demataretz makam. That explains the end of our Mishnah because it's referring to a case where the owner of the Veda was not allowed to have enough from the finder. But if the older our Mishnah is not even speaking about that case, our Mishnah is only speaking in a case where it was the finder that was not allowed to have enough from the owner. So how are you going to explain the case of Makim? And now you can't say Achado, because in this Nusach, the only case of the Mishnah is speaking where the finder wasn't allowed to have enough. So Tomar Kasha, in fact, according to that Nusach, it's going to be shver. And the Ran says, for this reason, even though only in one approach it doesn't work, the Ran Paskins, the Bein b'shenichse machzir asurin al balaveda, Bein b'shenichse balaveda asurin al machzir mahader, you can always give it back. But not everybody passes like that. Okay, let's see. Let me ask you a question. You are sitting by someone's table as a guest. Imagine you're sitting by someone's table, but a guest, or let's not make this personal. There's a bacher sitting at someone's table as a guest. You take this role, a lot of boys, right? On Shabbat, they get invited out. And this couple would get thrown out of Israel because not only did they have boys at the meal, they had girls at the meal too. Could you imagine? Could you imagine? I mean, the house would blow apart. And what happened is one of the bochim there liked one of the girls at the table. So he took his piece of potato kugel and he told the girl, Harayat Mekudeshes Li, with this kugel, Kadash Moshe Yisrael. So the question is it a good condition? Meaning, is this kugel his? When the host gives you food, is it your food? And therefore you could be Mekalish and Isha with it, or it's the host's food? Or at what point does it become your food?
I cheat a little bit.
What do you mean? On Pesach. It's also on Pesach. That's not. Okay, there's a machlokes Rishon. What if you're eating by someone's house on Pesach and you're eating his matzah? We hold the matzah has to be yours. So when you're eating matzah, is it yours or is it not? Well, that means he's having you eat by him. How do you know that it belongs to you? So that's the child. Doesn't belong to you. There is so that shiloh will come into play shortly. But if it's yours, you can be mechashnita with it. No. There's actually a machlokes we're showing about it. That's actually the machlokes to Ran and the Rosh in our sugya. But the Magen Avraham says that everybody agrees that if the food's on your plate, if the food was plated, then it's yours. And everybody agrees that everybody was plated yours. The only shaila is if the food was put on a platter in the middle, right? So there everybody agrees the food on the platter in the middle is the balabosas. But when you take it, is it yours at that point or not? So if you took it straight from the platter, you didn't put it into your plate, is it yours or is it the balabosas? That's how the Magen Avraham learns what the shaila is. So let's see the Gemara. Amar Rava, Hoysel Lefanov, Kika Shel Hefker. Okay, there's a Kika, Shmuel also has, right? There's a Kika of Hefker in front of a person. The Omar, and the person said, Kikar Zu Hektish. This Kikar is Hektish. Now, the Ram explains the reason why this is relevant is because the next shaila of the Gemara is gonna be relevant to this. And that's why the Gemara brought this up. So Hoysel Lefanov, Kika Shel Hefker, Lama Kika Zu Hektish. So I was never koinit. It's like I was mizak, I was zoicha in it on behalf of Hektish, which is what the Ran is going to tell us. The halacha is not the la'oichla. If then, after I said kikar zu Hektish, then I picked it up because I wanted to eat it, so I've taken it for myself. I'm removing it from the domain of Hektish because I plan to eat it. The moment I lifted it up with the intention of eating it, moal lefikula, I'm loyal on the whole object. The whole object is worth, it's a kikar worth $10. I did me'ilah of $10 because I wanted to take all chayfetz. But what if Larisha Levana? What if I only lifted it up, not because I wanted it? I just want to be able to bequest it to my children when I die. So then I didn't take it yet. So since I didn't take it yet, I only want to be able to take it later. All I benefited from it right now was that my children see, oh, what a great father we have. Look how he's trying to help us out. He's trying to accumulate wealth so that he'll be able to give it to us. So therefore, the value is not $10, it's a dollar's worth. It's $1 worth of anah. That's the level of me'ilah. And there's a shiloh when you give it to the kids, do they have to pay the rest of the me'ilah? And there's a shiloh about that. Or maybe once you took it, it's already discharged. So let's see what the Rat says.
Even if you didn't eat it, you just.
Correct. Correct. Amar Rabba, how shall one kikar shall hafker, v'amar kikar shall hektish, not the la'achla molo fikula. Zok the Heilige Rat. How the naked lo bekikar shall hafker? Why is the Gemara shiloh about kikar shall hafker? Why can it be a much more simple case? Lo naked bekikar shaloi, shoyshim medes bechetzeri bekdisha. Take a kikar you have in your house, and you said I raise you hektish, and now you have the same shiloh. Why did it have to be that it was hefker first? Zokt around, it's very important that it was hefker. We should be chihai gavna, not lo la'achla lo moal. If the kikar was yours to begin with, it was in your house, you already had it, and then you were makdish it, if you just lifted it up and you didn't eat it, you just lifted it with the intention of eating, you wouldn't be moil. Why not, Dr. Ram? The chivan de mekama hektish shaloi hoisa. Since before he made it hektish, it was his kikar. Ula acher hektish gam kain b'shusoye medes. And after you were makdish it, it's still in your rishus. Have a like a gizbar shal hektish. You have a status of the gizbar of hektish. The amrina b'soy per kama de chagiga sheim not al davar shal hektish liskoy spoy. If the gizbar himself takes an item of hektish and he wants to keep it for himself, loy moal. Unlike any third party who comes and takes something from hektish with the intent of taking it, he will be moal. The gizbar himself is not moal. Mishum de mikar nami v'rshusei, because it is in his rishus. So by him taking it, it's like taking it from one pocket to another pocket, and therefore there's no me'ilah. V'hachnami b'rshusei. Ve'ein me'ilah b'hektish, and you're not moil b'hektish ela b'moitzi mishus hektish l'shus acher. Me'ilah is caused when you remove it from one domain into another domain. Umali b'chatzerei mali b'yodai. What's the difference if it's in his chotzer when it was part of hektish, or if he picked it up to keep it? It's going from one pocket to another pocket. Hacha b'hacha le'nafek mershusei. Zaktiran. That's why in this case it was hefker. So it was hefker. And if something's within your 4 amos, we have a rule of dalat amoisav. Anything that's within your dalat amos is considered yours, and you can be koined. So when you came within dalat amos of this chayfetz, you could have said, "I want to be koined," but you didn't. You said, "I want to be koined on behalf of hektish." So you were like a shliach for hektish to acquire this chayfetz. So therefore, mishum hachi ki amar kikazu hektish chayil, because it's like schia. Umakdish zeh lo zocha by ma'olam. But the makdish never had this in his rishus. So now when he takes it, he's actually taking it out of the rishus of hektish.
When you say the Daladamas Kohanis, when you went into the Daladamas before he said it, then it was already his.
I maybe only maybe if he had das with that for hektish, so maybe it wouldn't have went in. The Daladamas shall adam kohanis loy afilu kiloyam or akna, which is exactly Chaim's kasha. Hachashani, we should the kiban the Amar Kikazu hektish Goli Adaite the lahektish nichele de lichne lididei lo niche. I think the ones directly addressing your Shiloh. The Gilu Daita ki hai mahani, and when you make such a Gilu das, it helps. And therefore you won't automatically be koined it will go to hektish. Umati lemeverach, you can actually do that. To have a lake him agbiya metzir lechaveroi the kana chaveroi. V'lo you, not him. Hachanami hektish koni v'iyu me'olam lekana zen nearly. Mushamachi therefore feared to around that nachal achla mol fikula shekivin shleizacha bo me'olam eino kegizbar Allah. He doesn't have the status of a gizbar. Ulefichach kishanatla haitzir mishusektish mishachimol. But if it was only the rishul abanav, then it's mol v'toyvis anoshaba. The kivin the loyek bia el the rishul abanav. Since he only picked it up to be marish to his children, not for him to be kind to himself now. What he wanted to extract from it, that's the level of his me'ilah. That he's looking to help him out. You sure he lifted it up? He took it with the intent of giving for Yusha. The Ran holds that his children will also be moil on the remainder of the value of this hektish when they actually do something. What in the world is this Shiloh hektish doing here? What does it have to do with Nedarim? So because it's similar to the Shiloh that we're about to ask that is relevant to Nedarim. Just like here, first he was makish to kikar, and then he took it to eat it. With Reb Chia bar Avin Nami, he's going to be a similar case. Asar kikar, someone said the kikar should be asar. The achach nosna loy, and then he gave it to the subject of the nether. So let's see now the next Shiloh. Boy minei Reb Chia bar Avin meirav. Reb Chia bar Avin asked the following question of Rav. Kikri olecha. I told Reuben, my kikar is asar to you, and then I say, how would you like me to give you my kikar? First, I say my kikar is asar to you, and then I actually give you my kikar. He's playing with my emotions. Do you hate me or do you love me? Now, do we say kikri amar loy? It's only when it's my kikar do I want it to be asar to you. When it belongs to me, it's asar. But once I give it to you, I don't want the isser to remain on the chayfetz. The emphasis is on the alecha amar loy. Iluya shavisa hektish. It's hektish for you forever. Why did I say kikri? Because I wanted to make it clear that it's only this kikar that I'm answering to you, not every other kikar. So that was the Shiloh that he asked. So let's see how the Ran explains the Shiloh. Zok Teil Ran, boy minei Reb Chia bar Avin, meirav a kikar lechem nasla b'matana mahu.
Would be much more specific than kikri man.
Okay, so let's see the Ran. The kikri ba'oicha kikar shaloi mash. Kikri means it's not this kikar is asur. This kikar, while it's mine, it should be asur. Once I give it to you, since it's no longer mine, maybe you'll be mutter. This item that is currently my kikar, should be asur to you forever. Let's finish the run. I'm sorry.
Where does the alavai and on him?
Oh, okay. Okay.
Means
Okay. Shkoyach. Bevada pshitale leRab Chia. Bevada Reb Chia knows the heicha shenosan madir kikar zelad macher. What if I gave the kikar to a third party? There for sure mutter hamudar boy. There for sure the subject of my nether would be allowed to have it. The question is only if I'm giving it directly to the person who's the subject of the nether. Okay, this is a little bit dragged out, so it's a little bit off topic. So what did he answer? He answered. So Rava answered, Pshita, it's Pashit, the Avagab, the Yahava Leibe Matana. Even though you gave it to him as a gift, Osir, it will be Osir. Ella, why is it Osir? Because Ella Kikri. Let me do this step in the route first. So Pshita, the Avagab, the Yahava Leibe Matana Osir. Surely I meant to say that it's Osir as well. Duran looks at them together, so I'll look at them together. The ilavachi, because why? Elakrikri alecha lafuke mai, lav lafuke the gun v'minei mignav. I don't understand. If you're saying that I also mean that if I give it, it should remain usher, so then what was I trying to show you with the word kikri? Under what conditions would it not be usher? So let's see the Ran explains beautifully. Amalei pshita, the avagav the yobna held b'matana usher, the Eloi alecha lafuke mai. Lafuke the gun v'mignav bitmia kloimer. Vada it's poshit. The avagav the Yehavah held b'matana. Even though you're giving him this kikar that's usher to your friend as a gift, usher love kikar, it should still be usher to the recipient. The Eloi, because if I didn't mean to make it usher, la'eze inyan usher love. How else was I asking? I don't understand. If I'm not planning to give you the kikar, then you're not going to be able to eat it anyway. So if I'm saying kikri alecha, I obviously want to make it usher to you, even if I'm going to give it to you. Because if I wasn't going to give it to you, you couldn't eat it. So obviously, when I said kikri should be usher to you, it must mean even if I am giving it to you to eat, you still can't have enough from it. That's what it must mean. And if that's the case, the Eloi, if it wasn't to answer it to him, even if I give it to him. So what exactly did you ask it for? If you're not giving it to him, how does your issue have any type of impact? When I have the kikar, I don't have to answer it to you. You can't eat it because you don't have it. You can't argue. Did you know why I told him that my kikar is aser? Don't say I meant the aser. You're not going to give it to you. I meant it should be aser if you acquire it through Geneva. That doesn't make sense to say. The leka the masakadaitachi. No one's going to say such a thing. I'm making this aser banal to you if you steal it from me. That's not the normal way to understand this nether. So the only logical way to understand this nether is that I'm saying that even if I give it to you, it should be aser. You're paganting me. Come on, can I have that Danish? And in order to get you to bug off, I say, you know what? This kikar is aser to you. Clearly, even if I give it to you, you won't be able to eat it. So on that, so the Rav says it's partial that it's going to be aser. Amalei, you don't have such a raya. Loi, lafuke the azmin. Maybe all I meant was not if I give it to you, but lafuke the azmin la kloimer la oilam emalach the yoyv label matana sharilei. Maybe in fact that if I give it to you as a gift, there I don't want to answer to you. Under what circumstance am I trying to create an isser that would otherwise not have been would otherwise not have prevented you from eating it? Is the azmin if I invited you to my house to eat the kikar, titularly, it's also just the invitation alone is also. Why? Because I'm giving him anah from the kikar by inviting him for it. The hishaita nami kikrahi. At that point, it's still my kikar. We're running late. This here is the nakuda between the ran and the rush, which we'll see tomorrow. That from there we build out this shaila as to when you're a guest in someone's house, whose kikar are you eating? So we'll say that for tomorrow because we're running late. Okay, so shkoyach.
Again,